Well, hi all, and welcome to the shed. I'm just going to do a bit of work on a spark plug change on this 400,000 kilometre Magna. I'm going to do a few other jobs as well, but I thought I'd just show that doing the spark plugs. Now I've taken the front spark plugs out already, and they're fairly simple. Obviously we can get to those, and that's not the issue. So we basically got to take the spark plug leads out, pull the sockets out of the holes, and that pulls them off the spark plugs as well. Get those out of the way and take your spark plugs out. So it's just your 5/8 socket. You just go down in the hole and undo your spark plug. Okay, so there's a couple of things got to happen to get the intake manifold off. We've got to take the little socket here off that goes down to the crank angle sensor. We need to take the throttle cable off, the earth lead off, and then we've got to go around. We've got to take it's easier I think to take off the mass airflow sensor and take out this part of the box as well, because we've got to basically get our throttle body out of the way as well as part of that. So I just find it's easy to take all that off, and we also need to take off the valves across the front here, the bracket for the wiring harness there. Need to take these vacuum lines out of the way as well, just so we can get that manifold off. You could mark them. I've just taken a photo of those with my phone to make sure that I can put it all back into the right place. So I've got to go ahead and do all that. I end up finding that I take the throttle body off the intake manifold, and I just get that throttle body out of the way, and I find that's just a little bit easier than trying to get the whole throttle body over. So we'll see how that all goes. So I'm going to get to all those little bits and pieces of jobs. So I've got a photo of those, so I'll know how they all go back together. Make life a little bit less complicated. Now, one of the reasons why I like to leave the throttle body there if I can is because the water lines that's got connected to it, I don't want to disconnect them at all. So yeah, I just unbolt that off there. I might just do that now. I'll just have a look. You've got to be, there's a couple of brackets holding the whole section up. Now, this here, I've just noticed that the bracket that bolts onto the throttle body back down to the engine, it's not going to bolt in it at all either, so I'll look to replace that later on. Often gets overlooked, people unbolt them and they don't put the bolts back in, which is a bit silly I think, but should have the bolts there holding it up. Righto, so I'll get that throttle body off. They look like 12mm bolts, and they will be. The throttle body has 4 bolts. Oh, and they're very tight, these ones. So that's the throttle body. Disconnected and free. And the gasket looks like it'll still work fine, so I'll try not to disturb that any further. Okay, need to take off, there's the brake vacuum hose there, that needs to come off, because we're going to lift this whole thing completely off. And then we'll find any other brackets I need to undo down the back there. Hopefully we can find them all without too much drama. Always forget where they are. Right, we need to get that off. That's the vacuum line for the brake booster there. See if that comes off. Yeah. Looked like it wasn't going to for a minute there, but it was actually quite soft still, that unpliable, that hose. Okay, 2 bolts. There's 1 bolt down here on the bracket holding this up, and another bolt here, and there's usually a bolt going through under the bracket onto the throttle body as well. This one wasn't there, as I said. Alright, so I'm going to undo those, and I'm going to undo the EGR pipe as well. So I'm going to undo the bolts along the front here. I'll do the ones on the ends first, so it's not rocking on those ones. Then I'll take these front ones out here because it takes that bracketry off, and then I'll take those 2 off finally after all that. Okay, is that ready? There we go. There you go, that's it. Hey, that's the intake manifold off, and that's how hard it is to remove it for doing your spark plugs. Off. Take those out like that. It's pretty simple. You might choose to do your spark plug leads while you're at it. This car, despite all this, and spark plugs being 100,000 kilometres old, actually idles pretty smooth, so I'm going to leave the leads as they are and not replace them. Okay, so here we go. I've got my new spark plugs. Here they are. I've got the old ones there, old platinum, old copper, and there's the new platinums, and I've gapped all those to 1.03 millimeters, which is within spec. Under the bonnet there, you can see the label. It says spark plug gap between 1 and 1.1 millimeters. So we're ready to put those on. Ratchet. So this engine's had a bit of work done to it now, not just these spark plugs, but of other stuff. So it'll be good to see how it runs after all that. So when I'm doing those up, you know, they've got a new washer that needs a little bit squishing down, but you don't want to over tighten those either, but you do want them to be firm, so they're not going to let any gases out. Okay, spark plug leads next, going back into place. They pretty much self-determine themselves where they want to go. So our plan is to get the bolts started, and then I'll put the bracketry on the back into place, and then we'll tighten everything up after that. Well, after those bolts were stripped out, what I found, the studs on the end were stripped out. I could have drilled those out and put a nut and bolt in each of those, that would have been fine. But the bolt here was stripped out, or the bolt hole, the thread in the aluminium in the lower intake manifold was stripped out on that bolt, and that bolt as well. So 2 bolts out of the 5 bolts and 2 studs there were the only things that didn't have stripped out threads. So what I've done is, I'm lucky I've got a few spare engines around. Hey, I've replaced the lower intake manifold. So, you know, if you're in the same situation, don't have a spare engine, you could take that lower intake manifold to a workshop and have some stainless steel helicoil threads put in it, or yeah, that'd be the best way to go. And hopefully you don't have that problem. So now I also don't forget your brake vacuum line, your booster. For your booster you want to make sure you've connected that back up after having all that off. So everything else is connected back up pretty much as it should be. I do have to, looks like I do have to put the bracket on there for the crank angle sensor cable. And all I've got to do is put the air intake box back in. So I'm going to get that done now. Okay, so I found two basic things that would make it run a bit rough. There's a vacuum over line over here that was leaking, so I fixed that. And I didn't have the EGR pipe bolted back into place. So anyway, let's have it go again. There we go, all done. So that'll be good. So excellent. Well, that's the spark plug change done. I had a few little issues, but that's the way it goes. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one.